Hey, welcome to Southern Soul Studio. I'm Tony Morris, the host of Southern Soul. Thank you so much for joining us. We're in season 3 now, so stay tuned for the next episode. You may be wondering, why is the show called Southern Soul? Well, the southern part is because originally I'm from Alabama. And the soul part is because, guess what? I'm a psychic medium. And on Southern Soul, together we'll discuss a variety of spiritual topics and also have some stories about my career. So stay tuned for today's episode of Southern Soul. Hello everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Southern Soul. I'm your host, Tony Morris. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, we cover a lot of topics on spirituality and my job as a psychic medium. And sometimes we talk about things kind of ordinary, like ordinary objects. Have you ever, for example, looked at something that appears to be somewhat ordinary, but saw it from a different perspective? And you're probably asking, where is he going with this? Well, let me show you. Take something like a basic box. Here we go, basic box. It's cardboard, it's relatively sturdy, and it has probably a multitude of uses, everything from shipping to storing things. But what happens when we give something relatively ordinary like a box additional powers? And what I mean by that is sometimes we can allow ourselves to be boxed in, box ourselves in, meaning sometimes we don't feel like we have options, or we don't feel like we have, there's solutions to address concerns that we face on a daily basis. We're not alone. Everybody goes through certain situations, whether it's in maybe a toxic relationship that you feel like, oh, I don't have any other alternatives. I'm going to have to just deal with it or stick with it. But you might be surprised if you give a little effort. The same thing with careers. I know we've all been there where we've had moments like, oh my God, this job is driving me crazy. But yet we still stick with it, not even thinking that we could have some other options. And certainly with health, we all have had our health issues in different parts of our lives. And especially when we have those moments of adversity, things that happen to us that just feel like it just literally sucks the life out of us. And today's special guest on Southern Soul, Scott Burns, has a very unique situation that happened to him years ago. A true moment of adversity, and how he was able to turn it around and make life more meaningful, not only for himself, but for a lot of people through the use of organ donors. So he'll be here to share his story with us a little later in the show. But before we bring Scott out, one of the things we always do on Southern Soul is take a few questions from our viewers. Oh, and by the way, if you have a question you want to send in, feel free to send me an email at tony@tony-morris.com. tony@tony-morris.com. So let's take some questions, okay? Now the first question is, I got to put on my glasses so I can read. Number one, why are some relationships that could be intimate remain platonic? Okay, I feel like I understand what you're asking here. Like I really like this person, but why are we just friends? Why isn't it something deeper? Sometimes that's how it's meant. That's absolutely how it's meant to be. It doesn't mean that you don't love that person any less. It just means that you love that person on a different level. I'll give you an example. The true story. I met a Facebook friend, and he knew that I like to go hiking, and he likes to go hiking. So he sends me a message and says, hey, why don't you come down south and we'll go hiking. Never met him before in my life. So I get down there, and we come from completely different backgrounds. You know, I'm from Alabama, and he's from a foreign country originally. So we meet for the first time. He's got his 2 dogs with him, and I'm like, oh, I'm really excited. You know, how far is the hike? And I'm thinking maybe 5 miles. His answer, 13 miles. And I'm thinking, 13 miles? What are we going to talk about for 5.5 hours? Never met this person. But what was interesting is during that entire 5.5 hours, we talked nonstop. We learned about each other. We understood more about each other's different backgrounds, our cultures. And so whenever and I knew there was something special about our relationship. It didn't feel intimate, but it felt very special. So he returned the favor. He came up north to go hiking where I live. And we were going through the hiking, through the mountains and everything, and I meditated. And what I saw in my meditation were the 2 of us in a different life, in a previous life, as brothers. We were running up and down that mountain stream, and then all of a sudden it was quite clear. We weren't meant to have an intimate relationship. We were meant to have something perhaps very special, something that was connected to a previous life. I felt a very close relationship with him from the beginning, and now I understand why there was a past life connection. So yes, just understand that you don't have to have an intimate relationship to have a relationship on a deep level, okay? Meaning you don't have to go to bed with somebody in order to have a deep relationship. Is that clear enough? Okay, number 2, can one sabotage his or her own good? Oh, absolutely. And sometimes we go out of our way to do it. Meaning, like, if something's going great and everything seems to be humming along just right, sometimes we look for ways like, okay, what if? What if that doesn't happen? What if this happens? Oh my gosh, what if that, all these what ifs. And what I say to people, because yes, you can take the good away from a situation and replace it with things that's not even there, and it takes the good, it takes the fun, it takes the opportunities away from us. So if you're going to play that game with yourself, where it's like, okay, what if, or this isn't going to happen, at least make it fair. Meaning, if you're going to say, what if something negative, be fair and just say, oh, well, what if something positive? See what I'm saying? Make it at least a fair game. So I feel like that's one way that we can avoid sabotaging our own good. So don't do it. I mean, don't sabotage your own good. All right, the 3rd question. I've heard the term positive mindset. Do you have any guidance how to adapt to one? Well, let's put it this way. There's no one solution that will fit everybody because we're all different, we're all unique. I will tell you this, what has worked for me is that I wake up every morning and I may sound like a broken record, but I wake up every morning and say, I am grateful, I am grateful, I am grateful. 3 times. It's like clockwork, literally. And then I look for the good in everything. Even if something feels a little daunting or a little hard to believe at times, like, oh my gosh, I've got that cut out for me today. I really try to look for something good and positive in it versus approaching it with, oh gosh, I'm dreading that. Because understand, if you approach something with the attitude of, like, I'm dreading that meeting, or I'm dreading meeting that person today, there's a good likelihood that it's going to be dreadful. Whereas if you look at it like, I really want to learn something from this experience, I am looking forward to finding out more about where this could lead, you'd be surprised the difference it could make. So thank you everybody for those 3 questions. Now, I can't stress it enough. I really want you to stick around for our special guest, Scott Burns. He's got an incredible story that will touch your life. Welcome back everybody to Southern Soul with our special guest, Scott Burns. Not only is Scott a successful business person in Santa Barbara, but just as important, he also is an ambassador for an organization called Donate Life. Scott, welcome to Southern Soul.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I like to represent Donate Life whenever possible. It's a great organization.
Yeah. Tell us about the organization.
Well, let me give you a backstory as I fit into the organization. About 6 years ago, my kidneys failed, and I knew nothing about what to do, how to do it, how to do anything. So I began Googling what happens and how do you get your, how to get a kidney donated. And I found an organization called Donate Life. Mm-hmm. And as I learned about the organization Donate Life, I said, wow, this is really good. I got to meet some nice people. And then I also got involved and became what they call a Donate Life ambassador.
Okay.
Donate Life ambassador, the reason we do Donate Life ambassadors is a lot of people, they don't know much what happens. And what basically happens is sometimes people die, and some of the people die in a way that their organs can be donated. So we want to make sure that the most people that actually die in a way their organs can be donated, their organs can be transplanted. Mm-hmm. Now, as a story that comes with that is 2012, I became an organ donor. The reason that happened was a two-part story. The first one was I took a leave for pain, and it turned out I was allergic to a leave. 1 in 250,000 allergic to pain, allergic to a leave. It caused my kidney. I only had one kidney, caused that one to fail. The other story, which is why I only had one kidney, was about 1978. I'm in a...
Wait. That far back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was about 23 when I lost my first kidney. And my second kidney, my left kidney, worked very well until I took a leave.
Okay.
And a leave caused it for the kidney function to go down drastically.
But what happened in '78?
In '78, I played rugby, and I played rugby until I got my kidney transplant. So I was not very smart, but that's rugby. In '78, after the game, I'm out with some friends at a bar and a restaurant in Santa Barbara. I leave the restaurant. I'm getting into my car, and I see a blonde lady get into her car, but as she gets into her car, she really doesn't even get into her car, she seems to drop her keys. And I go, could I help you? And before she has a chance to say anything, somebody else off in the distance says, don't talk to her. And I look at him, I look at her, and go, I'll talk to her if I want to. A couple of words later, he pulls out a gun and shoots me.
A gun?
A gun.
And
shoots
right
me.
there in the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay.
So a little story on that, just as a quick aside, is the guys I were with were Canadians, and they didn't know where anything was in Santa Barbara, and a very nice person kind of said, I know where the hospital is. So they take us to the hospital, and there's a whole different story of how I ended up losing one kidney, but everything else was okay. I spent a couple of weeks in the hospital, but my kidney function with the one kidney, that one kidney grew, so it basically did okay until I had
the complications.
The complications.
Let me ask you this, because I'm trying to process this whole scenario of being shot, and how you were able to go from something that was just so tragic and continue to live your life in a positive mindset. How did you? What did you do within to get to that place? Because that's a pretty heavy thing to be confronted with.
I think everyone has a different starting point. Mm-hmm. My starting point has always been a positive thing. What can I do to help other people?
Right.
I always look for the best in other people. And suddenly, when this happened, probably for 3 or 4 months, I was spending time upset with the world, and upset with me, and upset with lots of things. Then I processed it, and then I came out okay. But on the same token, when my kidney failed in 2012, you're wondering why me? Mm-hmm. Why did it happen to me? Why did I take a leave instead of Tylenol? These are all that same process of going through. How do you get through that? And I think that was a bigger issue for me to go through, and to sit around and wonder, what's going on? What am I doing? Am I ever going to get a kidney? I was one of the few, about 10% of the people that have organ transplant that are on the waiting list for a kidney do not need to be on dialysis. and I've never had to be on dialysis. The feeling is 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, you're not really functioning very well, so I was happy I wasn't there. But I never wanted to be on dialysis, but I was really my kidney function was at 11 to 12%, and if it had dropped to 10%, I would have to go to dialysis.
Wow.
So that was a more stressful time than...
But what about back in '78 when that gunshot happened? That's pretty bad. I mean, pretty bad. But did you find out that it could have been even worse?
Well, the good news is I found out that it could have been even worse.
Okay.
It could have been. I could have died.
Of course.
The doctor later said he hit you in a place where if it was an inch to the left, an inch up, an inch down, or an inch towards the center, I wouldn't have been there. So from one perspective,
whoa,
by the time I knew about it, I was very lucky.
Grateful for that inch.
Grateful for that inch.
Your work with Donate Life, I'm sure you have, you've heard of other examples of people. Can you give us one example of a story that really made an impact with you that you?
Well, let me make it a little more personal than that. With organ donations, you get on a waiting list. My waiting list started on May 12th, 2012. Fast forward 2015. Mother's Day 2015, a nurse at Cottage Hospital lived in Ventura and was working out at her gym. That happened to be Mother's Day, and she collapsed. Her name's Vivian. Vivian collapsed. They thought she had a heart attack or a stroke, and it turned out she had an aneurysm, and she was basically, I hate to use the word, brain dead. She was alive, she was on a ventilator, but she was dead. Now, 2 weeks later, Memorial Day weekend, I'm at Santa Cruz Island with a friend on a sailboat, and it was Saturday afternoon about 4 o'clock, and out of the blue, a powerboat comes into Fry's Anchorage, where we were at, and it was, "Mr. Burns, we have a kidney for you." Now, lots of emotions going on right then and there, because I was on a waiting list. I'd been on a waiting list for 3 years. Southern California, you're normally on the waiting list for 6 years, but suddenly they've got a kidney for me. I take my my bag off my friend's sailboat, get on the powerboat. Now, as an aside, on the powerboat, it's 45 minutes back to the harbor. The sailboat, it's 4 hours. So we got back very, very quickly.
Right.
Now, the other thing, because I had by then had multiple operations for my kidney and other things, you learn in a hospital, one of the things you never get is a nice long shower. As soon as I got back to shore, I drove home and took a nice long shower. So nobody else would think about that, but I did. Right after I got out of the shower, Cedars-Sinai called and said, "We have a kidney, when can you get here? We're ready for you." I drove down there, did a lot of tests. I was basically in a room. They did all this stuff on me. At 2 o'clock in the morning, they said, "It's a match." 6 o'clock in the morning, I got then they put me under, and I woke up, I hate to use the word, urinating at 11:30 in the morning with a new kidney from Vivian. Now, the story that comes in, which is really exciting from my point of view, when you're on the waiting list, the family members know that, not when you're on the waiting list, but as you're, if a family member dies and they know that person wants to donate their kidney and their organs to whoever needs it. So on the waiting list, you're ranked, but what happens is the family can, if they know of somebody who needs an organ, they can bump you up to the top of the list. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not knowing what was going on, about noon, my wife got a call from a friend of hers who said, "My sister-in-law is dying, and we want to donate her organs, and doesn't Scott need a kidney or something?" So my wife went to Cottage Hospital and started the process. So that was a very thing. Now, normally with organ donations, you do not know who the donor is and where it goes. But since mine was what they call a direct donation, we knew. And they took a Facebook post that my wife took of me with the new kidney at the hospital, and they said that was the one happy moment at her funeral a week later. where they got to see me. You know, I was alive because of her.
That's
so that
a beautiful
was
story.
That's
beautiful story. I know you've got many, many more, but if one of our viewers wanted to find out more about Donate Life, is there a website that they can go to?
There is, and honestly, a couple things. One, just Google organ donations or Donate Life, and depending what state you're in, you'll be sent to the organ donation organization that's in your state. In California, there's 4 different organizations. In Southern California, from Santa Barbara to Orange County and out to Riverside, that is the group that I'm with, which is called One Legacy. We end up doing information. I give presentations to schools. I talk to the DMV. I talk at hospitals. I talk at the city council, throughout Santa Barbara County and Ventura County. One of the things that I really like to stress is a lot of people, you go to the DMV, and the DMV, you're there because there's an issue, there's something with your license, you need to get there.
I gotta get mine renewed.
You gotta get yours renewed, all these things. And there's always a line, and you're always stressed. Well, I go to the DMV quarterly to the various DMVs, and I basically explain to them they are lifesavers. I don't care about, sometimes they get stressed because they've got all these people in line. Yeah. Because of them telling people to get a pink dot on their driver's license, I'm alive. So we really go out of our way to do whatever we can for the DMV. They're also lifesavers because, believe it or not, they're the ones who made sure you know how to drive, and I know how to drive, that we drive correctly so people don't die accidentally. So I put a lot of effort into the DMV.
You are a true ambassador. Some of the examples you just shared with us, and one of the ways which I feel like you're also helping to share the story is being a guest here today on Southern Soul. So thank you so much, Scott, for being with us today, and thank you especially for the work that you do with Donate Life.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, I know you are.
And
we got one more segment of Southern Soul left, folks. It's the Little Red Wagon segment, so stay tuned. Thanks, Scott, for sharing your story about organ donors. That organization certainly does help thousands and thousands of people. Now, organ donors certainly save lives. It's a way of giving back, making literally a donation, and certainly one that really impacts a lot of people. But you don't have to give a body part or an organ in ways to give back or to make a donation. You can make a positive impact in various ways, and certainly being an organ donor is one of the biggest and certainly one of the most important. But this is my favorite part of Southern Soul. It's what I call the Little Red Wagon segment. And you think about it, when you're a kid, the Little Red Wagon was probably your first toy. It was always there with you when you're a kid. You put your dreams, you put your aspirations, you put what type of experiences you wanted to have happen in your life in your Little Red Wagon. And you pull it through life. It's always there. So getting back to the idea of donating and giving back, today's exercise on the Little Red Wagon segment is going to be quite simple. Identify 3 ways that you can donate, or 3 appropriate ways that you can donate. What type of resources do you have where you can give back? 3 ways. The second phase of this little exercise is identify the 3 benefits of giving back to you. Meaning certainly I guess one would be a tax benefit, but you don't have to really go there. But think about deep down, what would be the 3 benefits of your giving back, your making donations into a worthy cause or to a worthy experience. And now the third part of this exercise, think about the three types of benefits to other people. Yes, other people. How can your donation, how can your giving back make a difference in the lives of other people? 3 ways. I'm going to give you a quick example from me. I love to hike, and so that's one of my passions. And after the mudslides happened in Montecito, I really wanted to do something to help rebuild the trails of Montecito. They're quite famous for their hiking trails. And I thought, okay, I want to get involved with the Montecito Trails Foundation. And so I did. And so that would be one way in which I'm giving back. A benefit for me is that I have a very fond affection for nature. And so it nourishes my soul knowing that I'm able to help rebuild something in the environment that was somewhat destroyed during the horrible mudslides that happened earlier this year. And then finally, the way in which that could benefit other people is that many hundreds of other people will have a chance to use the refurbished trails now that they're open. So it's all for the common good. So let's repeat that exercise. Identify 3 ways that you can donate. Donate your resources to an organization or to a cause. Identify 3 ways in which that would benefit you as a person. And then finally, identify the 3 benefits that could impact other people. That's your homework for Little Red Wagon. Thank you so much for joining us on the latest episode of Southern Soul. I'm really glad you joined us. And until next time, keep rolling.
Hey everybody, we are here on the set of Southern Soul, and we are ready to roll.
You're sitting here feeling all alone, like all that was special in your life is now gone. But I've got sound advice that you should take to heart. When we leave here, life goes on differently, and the ones we love are still here even when we can't see. So listen with your being and you'll find the place to start, to feel some southern comfort in your soul. A new way of listening to the things that we know, that our friends and loved ones tell us life just begins again. So take some comfort in your soul, my friend.
And if you girls will remove the microphone, I'm going to start breaking
Great.
Can you go turn it
Can
on?
we say cut? This is, I know, this is.
Yeah.
Cut!
I'm,
We're going to
cut.
studio live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we got mugs.
And we got mugs. I'm not going to drink it yet.